A reading from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 14. While Jesus was in Bethany, at the house of Simon the leper, as he was reclining at the table, a woman came with an alabaster jar of very expensive perfume of pure nard. She broke the jar and poured it on his head, but some were expressing indignation to one another. Why has this perfume been wasted? For this perfume might have been sold for more than 300 denarii and given to the poor. And they began to scold her. Jesus replied, "Leave her alone. Why are you bothering her? She has done a noble thing for me. You always have the poor with you, and you can do what is good for them whenever you want, but you do not always have me. She has done what she could. She has anointed my body in advance for burial. Truly I tell you, wherever the gospel is proclaimed in the whole world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her." The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Well, what a beautiful and in many ways convicting passage of Scripture. I know that in my life I often want to identify with the woman pouring out the perfume, but usually I end up thinking like the disciples, thinking it's too expensive, it's too complicated, it's too difficult. Is this really what is worth spending our time on? And as we know from the passage, Jesus says yes, that abundant worship, worship that just goes above and beyond, is what we're called to do. I love what Marva Dawn says. She calls worship a royal waste of time, using waste in quotation marks, because from the purpose or from the view of the world, worship's not efficient, it's not practical, and it's not useful in many ways. We spend so much time and money and effort worshiping God, and we don't really get anything tangible out of it. But if we truly think about the God whom we worship, the God whom we worship is a God of abundance and beauty and life and joy. Look at the world that He's created for us. Look at the creativity and the desire for craftsmanship that He's instilled within us. These things are not strictly necessary for life, but God created an abundantly beautiful world. And it makes sense that our worship response to Him should be abundant, it should be dramatic, and it should be excessive. And when we worship in this way, it changes us and it changes our hearts and our perspectives on the world. We're not just looking at efficiency, at numbers. We're not trying to control, but we are putting a focus on God. Justo Gonzalez says that worship is an act of justice because it sets the world in a right order. Instead of us trying to be the center of our universes, us trying to control everything, us essentially viewing ourselves as God, worship is when we are forced and when we choose to put God in His right place at the center of the universe and at the center of our lives. And when we do this, we experience joy because this is what we are meant to do. We are meant to worship God. We are meant to worship God not only at the baseline, not of what fits into our lives, not of what's practical or what's cheap, but we're meant to worship Him extravagantly because He deserves us, He deserves it, and He has given us so much. So let's do it, church. Let's break the whole bottle. Let's pour it out at the feet of Jesus as we worship Him.